And I take the opportunity to rise tonight to speak to the matter of public importance raised by the member for Mulka as an important topic for this parliament to talk about tonight. And Madam Speaker, what I have just witnessed in this chamber is absolutely, utterly disgraceful. The Environment Minister, the member for Brakeley, comes in here and whitewashes over the importance of this MPI. Now, for those people who might not understand what whitewashing is, it's a process when someone comes forward and tries to hide the faults or failures or problems with something and tries to tell a different story, tries to sell something to say it's not as bad as it is. Well, I'm sorry, tonight you don't get to come in here and tell an Aboriginal man, a respected elder from the Northern Territory, how he should think and feel about the Aboriginal Areas Protection Authority's legislation. He's one of the only people in this chamber who absolutely is connected to every aspect of the Northern Territory, to language, to law, to culture. For a non-Indigenous person to come in here tonight, read a speech that they probably haven't even read before stepping in this chamber and completely disrespect an Aboriginal member of this parliament, telling them what they should and shouldn't do and how they shouldn't think. And this legislation is not a big problem. It's not causing faults to Aboriginal areas of significance. When an Aboriginal member has spoken about the direct harm that his own family has experienced when sites are damaged is appalling. Madam Speaker, we are not in 1788. We are not flora and fauna. The member for Mulka, the member for Arnhem, the member for Daly, myself, we are not fauna. We are Territorians. But you get this government, they come in here and they talk like they know what is best, what needs to happen in the Northern Territory. Well, Madam Speaker, it's pretty simple. The government need to start using their brains. Don't wreck things that don't belong to you. Places in the Northern Territory that are sacred sites belong to Aboriginal Territorians. They always have and they always will belong to Aboriginal people. The member for Mulka brought this matter of public importance to this chamber because of the echoing calls from the bush. People talking about their anxiety, their concern, their heartache about places of cultural and spiritual significance potentially being damaged. Because what they hear is they hear a minister stand up and say, there's nothing to see here, don't worry about it. Just like he says about other projects concerning the environment and country. And we know that we're already seeing devastating impacts of those particular projects that he fails to continue to talk to people about. He comes in here and he says, don't worry, if something's got a certificate already, it's fine. We'll just transfer the certificate. Madam Speaker, 40 years or so ago, when the waterfront was there, no one imagined it to be what it is today. The legislation that the minister's talking about actively shuts out Aboriginal Territorians who have connection to that place, who have the right to speak for that place, who carry the story of that place. This government sees Aboriginal people as a pastime. We're not a pastime. We're living, we're breathing, we're here every day. Our culture's alive, our people are alive. We are evolving. Aboriginal people who carry the song and storyline for the waterfront should be involved in decisions about the waterfront, not told you're excluded because of an agreement that is historical, that is old. Not told I've got to do a deal for a mate and I'm going to change the law. I'm going to change the law to make money and to not put people first. That's what we're seeing here. We've got to keep an eye on it. The government's now talking about the site of Project Sea Dragon, Legume, out in my electorate. That's black soil country. That's sacred land. That has stories. That has meaning to Aboriginal people. We cannot allow this government to erode those important sites that carry language. As the member for Mulka has already spoken about in this chamber, a sacred site is not just a place. You don't just drive out to a sacred site on the weekend to see it. It's a living, breathing thing. It's connected to Aboriginal people's stories, to their dreaming, to their social and emotional well-being. It's not something that can just be dismissed. We absolutely need people to be responsible. The legislation as it was intended, Mr. Deputy Speaker, was introduced to make sure that territory sacred sites could be protected. That's when the legislation was passed. Now, when the Self-Government Act was granted to the Northern Territory in 1978, land and cultural heritage powers were also transferred to the Northern Territory to make those laws, including the protection of Aboriginal sacred sites. That's why today we have the Aboriginal Areas Protection Authority. That's why we have the Northern Territory Sacred Sites Act. But this territory legislation, Mr. Deputy Speaker, no longer supports that important protection. Now, while that responsibility currently sits with the Territory, the Commonwealth does have the ability, through the constitutional power under section 122 of the Australian Constitution, which gives authority over the Territories, to let them override Territory laws and reassert control. I hope to God that the Commonwealth are keeping an eye on this Territory government and that power is considered to be returned to the Commonwealth, because Aboriginal people do not trust this government when it comes to the protection of sacred sites. The member for Breitling, who tries to say he's the most green credentialed person on that side, is dreaming. He's absolutely dreaming. He is delusional and distorted if he thinks that he is a green credentialed progressive person, because he's not. The changes that the government brought in to amend the sacred sites legislation is from a 2016 review that was done by the previous CLP government. 9 years old. Things change over 9 years. The government are the first to bang on about how, say, there's dramatic change in 9 years, but when it suits them, they'll pick up a review that's 9 years old and cherry pick recommendations through it. Now, I know firsthand, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the Aboriginal Areas Protection Authority, we're working with the Territory's land councils to do a comprehensive reform on the Aboriginal Areas Protection Authority legislation, to change it, to increase penalties for people who do the wrong thing, to look at certificates, to look at cultural protection. They were working on that. That work was being done, and that work was good. That work was strong. That work was actual extensive consultation being done on Aboriginal time. Clear, concise, not rushing things through. Now, if the member for Breitling had the courage, had the guts, and didn't carry on in a cowardly manner, he would have picked that review up. He would have met with ARPA and he would have said, hey, you've done this work. Hey, land councils, you worked with ARPA on this work. Let's talk about this review. Let's implement this review. But no, he didn't. He ignored them and chose to do a review that had been done 9 years earlier. He comes in Parliament tonight and says, oh yeah, I met with the Land Council. I gave them a whole hour. Whoopie-doo. An hour's nothing. You're talking about thousands of years of stories, of culture, of dreaming, of connection, and you're celebrating giving them an hour? You come in here and you say, oh, look, I spoke to them and I picked a few things up for them. And then you try and verbal what they said and what you said about them and to them in a meeting out at Yalara. Not good enough. Not good enough. This is a government who rock up at NAIDOC events, who rock up at Indigenous Business Awards, who rock up at Reconciliation Week events, trying to celebrate Aboriginal people. You make me sick. Sick in the guts, because you come there two-faced, showing up saying we support you, but in a time of need, when the member for Mulka has brought this motion to Parliament to talk about how Aboriginal people actually really feel about your law, you've got nothing to say. Except for the minister, the member for Breitling, saying, she'll be right, mate, I think it's good. You're not black. You don't get to say that. You don't get to diminish the member for Mulka's contribution. He's telling you there's a problem. He's telling you people are getting sick when sites are getting damaged. He's telling you our identities are getting broken when bulldozers drive through something like nothing. There are so many parts of the Northern Territory that people go, there's never been a sacred site there before. No, dummy. We've never told you that there's a sacred site there before for that very reason. It's sacred. It doesn't need to be known by everyone. But when you want to do a development there, work with us, not against us. And stop saying that blackfellas are opposed to development. We want economic development. We're not anti-development. We just want to have ethical development that works in partnership with Aboriginal people, that works in partnership with the land, with our culture, with country. That's what we want. We're not anti-development. So many of my mob in the bush, they want to have businesses. They want to have opportunity. They can do it, and they know they can do it without it coming at a cost of country. So start listening. Start working with people. Start enabling them to have the opportunities for economic development. But it doesn't need to come at the cost of destroying country. We were in this chamber yesterday and the Attorney General and the Tourism Minister's talking about people come here for a cultural experience. That's right, Aboriginal culture. They come here to see the sites. And your very legislation provides the platform and the opportunity for these sites to be withered away. This is important. And I acknowledge, yeah, some of you might not truly grasp and understand that. And some of you never will. But at least get out into the remote regions of the territory and listen, talk to people, walk with people, sit in the dirt with people. Do it in the city here. Go and meet with Larrakia. They're strong. They're important. They do an amazing job on this amazing place where we get to come to work. And they want to have economic development in Darwin. Absolutely they do. But they don't want it to come at the cost of their culture and of their social and emotional well-being. You might think that it's black magic, but it's real for us. When you put an 11-storey tower in front of a site that our elders have told you not to, people are going to get sick. Whether it's the people who build that thing there, whether it's the government that approve it, or whether it's Aboriginal people who are being punished for that to go there, people will get sick. And people will have to try and heal from that. That's what's at stake tonight. It's not the member for Mulka just coming in here because he wants to. He has a cultural obligation and a duty to the law of his people, of our people. I hear the mumbling over there. You've got something to say, stand up and say it. Because it'll be silence. Yeah, well, if the member for Goyder or whoever it is over there wants to say something, then stand up and say it. Because we hear people in the Northern Territory, Aboriginal Territorians, who I will remind you are just as equal as any other Territorian. They want to hear from you. They want to hear what you're going to do when their people are getting sick. They want to hear from you about how you can work with them on ethical development opportunities. Doesn't come at the cost of country. That's what they want. And we need to respect this MPI tonight.
Thank you, Member for Gouger. Any further speakers? Any further